So, you're thinking about moving to San Diego? I'm going to give you the pros and the cons right now. Hi, I'm Shylia, the San Diego Realtor on the Lewis team. Welcome to another episode of Love Workplace San Diego, where I'm going to show you what living here is really like. Every day, we're helping people relocate in and out of San Diego, so if you've ever had any thoughts about living here or have any questions, feel free to reach out and ask. On this episode, we're going to talk about moving here to San Diego and some of the great things about San Diego and some of the not so great things. Yes, San Diego is an amazing place, but just like anywhere else, it's got its pros and its cons. So to start it off, I'm going to give you some of the top 3 reasons on why people love living here. The first and most popular reason is the nearly perfect weather, with most days being around 70 degrees, regardless of the season. So a good way to explain it is that there's more so like 2 seasons here, where it never gets too hot and never really gets too cold. So if that's one of the things that you're looking for, just kind of one of those mild room temperature weathers, this would be a perfect area for you to live in. Which brings me to my second reason why people love living here, are the beautiful beaches here in San Diego. So if you're thinking about moving here, chances are you might be a little bit outdoorsy, very excited about being near the beach, and so you might be into volleyball, surfing, building sandcastles, rollerblading on the boardwalk, or even looking for a dog-friendly beach to take your 4-legged friends out to. But don't get me wrong, going to the beach isn't the only thing to do here. We also have mountain trails where you can hike, you can bike, you can horseback ride. And one of the things that we like to say here in San Diego is, although we don't have the 4 seasons, we're just a short drive away. So we've got an hour from the mountains, an hour from the desert, and just a short drive down to Mexico. So now that you've learned about the weather and all the outdoorsy activities that you can do here in San Diego, now I want to tell you about the number 3 reason why people love living in San Diego, and that is the various culture and different lifestyles. One of the really cool culture and lifestyles that people experience when they move here to San Diego is the craft brew scene. And in fact, there are over 150 craft breweries right here in San Diego County that you'll most likely experience during your time here. And San Diego is a melting pot of different cultures. Being this close to Mexico and having the ocean right in our backyard, we get a lot of different flavors. One of my favorite spots is Born and Raised. And the reason I like it is just the really cool, laid-back atmosphere and the amazing food. Another spot that you've got to check out while you're here is Ironside, again down in Little Italy, but it's got some of the best seafood that I've ever had, and their oysters during the week are on happy hour sale. One of the coolest things that we also like doing is if you have a boat or access to a boat, you can actually tour around the bay, but you can actually pull up to some of these restaurants and grab a bite to eat at Costera on Shelter Island, or you can shoot down to Coronado, grab a brew, and it's really actually pretty cool. So these are some of the reasons why people love living here, but just like any other place, there are some cons, even in San Diego. So one of the major drawbacks about living in San Diego is the horrible traffic. So one of the things that you want to consider when you're moving here is the proximity from your work to your house, and if it's important to you to get there in a certain amount of time. So there's going to be 2 major freeways here in San Diego. One's actually more so by the coast, and then one is inland. So the coastal one is going to be the 5 freeway, and the inland one's going to be the 15. And I don't care what map you look at, they are not close together. We also have the high cost of living. Now, your sticker shock is going to depend on where you're coming from in the country. For example, if you're coming from San Francisco or LA, you might think we're pretty cheap here. But if you're coming from the Midwest, you might think we're really expensive. Now, one thing to remember about living here in San Diego is that the houses are generally smaller. So the closer that you go to the coast, the smaller you're going to get as far as house goes and a little bit closer together. Whereas the more inland you go, it's more expansive. So you're going to get a little bit bigger house and really more bang for your buck. And it's for that reason that you're not going to see a ton of new home construction that is on the coast. You're more so going to see the new home construction a little bit more inland. You're probably going to be looking at some homes that are a little bit outdated. And one of the things that might shock you is that not all the houses here have air conditioning. And I know that might sound weird to you, but it's kind of a part of the lifestyle. A lot of people will just open their windows and enjoy the cool breeze. There are very few houses for rent or for sale right now, and things go very fast. When you're moving here and you're writing offers or you're writing applications, you might not get the first home. One of the other costs that I want you to be aware of when you're coming here is the cost of gas. So recently, when this video has been made, our cost of gas is nearing $5. And there are going to be some miscellaneous fees, the first one being car registration. And if you're a small business owner, check with your accountant and find out what filing fees you might have. Listen, I hate the cost of living here too, but let me just kind of tell you about how I validate it in my mind. The quality of life that I want for myself and for my family outweighs the cost that I've got to pay for it. But this is going to be something that you have to decide for yourself and your family. But one thing that I want you to be prepared for when you're thinking about moving into San Diego is the homeless crisis that we've got going on in our city. So you are going to see driving through our city a lot of areas where there's homeless camps set up and tents. There are a lot of groups that are being deployed there and a lot of resources as well, but it's not a fast solve and it's going to take some time. So I hope this video gave you some of the pros and the cons about moving to San Diego. But if you've got any other questions or need any more information, please feel free to reach out. Every day my team and I are helping people relocate, navigate through San Diego, find their home, find their community, and we would love to help you as well. So if you've got any additional questions on moving to San Diego, please feel free to reach out. I'm Shylia with the Lewis team, and this has been another episode of Love Workplace San Diego. Thanks for watching.